Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Louisa. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe, and if you're coming back, how's it going? Welcome back. As you can see, I am in a rather unique location today. I decided to film parts of this video in a really old hydroelectric power plant. So this power plant is probably about 100 years old, and as you can hear, there is a stream nearby. It's just down the hill from here. And you might not know, but Tasmania in general actually has a lot of hydroelectricity. Most of our electricity comes from hydroelectric schemes. So we have a number of dams around the state. We have really huge rivers here. Very mountainous regions, quite inaccessible, mostly just forests and wombats, but it's a huge natural resource that we can tap into. So why did I think that filming in an old hydroelectric power plant would be suitable for a video about the bottomless pit? Well, during my research, one of the things that came up was Hoover Dam. If you're watching from America, no doubt you have heard of this place. It also featured very heavily in the first Transformers movie. But one of the things about Hoover Dam is it has an awful lot of tunneling, which was done throughout the canyon around it, Black Canyon. And they did all this tunneling in order to divert different streams of water. Now, if you have a look at how Tasmania has done hydroelectric schemes, there's a lot of piping, not a lot of tunneling. But one of the really interesting things about Hoover Dam is the terrazzo flooring that's in it. So it's a fairly popular spot for tourism, and people can go and visit the dam if it's not closed for you know what. But back when it was built in the 1930s, the artists who did the interior decorating, they decided to do these special terrazzo floorings, and they're supposed to be an homage to the Native American tribes. And it's this kind of fusion between Native American design and electricity. But one of the recurring themes of these patterns is a spiral. And you might not be aware of what a spiral actually symbolizes, but it symbolizes a portal. That might sound a little bit wild and far-fetched, but bear with me. One of the most common symbols found throughout the globe on petroglyphs is spirals. And as you can imagine, petroglyphs are mostly found in cave systems. So whether it's Native American tribes or whether it's the ancient Picts, the motif of a spiral pops up over and over again. And as I discussed in a previous video, CERN, which is buried deep underground, they have been playing around with the concept of interdimensional portals. Now, if highly trained scientists believe that there is such a thing as an interdimensional portal, and it has something to do with underground cave systems, and it also has something to do with electricity, then is there something a little bit more to Hoover Dam? Another question that we need to ask is whether this is something that we find in the Bible. And yes, we do. If you read the Bible very carefully, there are probably more than this, but there's at least 4 verses that I found which allude to an underground interdimensional reality.
And the angels which kept not their first estate, but left their own habitation, he hath reserved in everlasting chains under darkness, unto the judgment of the great day. And the Lord said unto Satan, Whence comest thou? Then Satan answered the Lord and said, From going to and fro in the earth, and from walking up and down in it. That at the name of Jesus every knee should bow, of things in heaven and things in earth and things under the earth. And the fifth angel sounded, and I saw a star fall from heaven unto the earth, and to him was given the key of the bottomless pit. And they had a king over them, which is the angel of the bottomless pit, whose name in the Hebrew tongue is Abaddon, but in the Greek tongue hath his name Apollyon.
Revelation, of course, talks about the bottomless pit. The book of Jude also talks about everlasting chains underground in darkness. The original King James Version of the book of Job actually has Satan wandering around in the earth rather than on the earth. And Philippians, when it says that every knee should bow and every tongue confess that Jesus Christ is Lord, it goes further than that. So we've established that the Bible actually acknowledges an underground world. But what other examples are there that we can see in everyday reality? The first thing I want to have a look at is Houska Castle.
Houska Castle in the Czech Republic was built by Ottokar II of Bohemia between 1253 and 1278. Set in a remote mountainous region, it held no strategic advantage, and it had very few services such as water available. The castle was rarely occupied, but was somehow deemed important enough to become a Nazi base during World War II. Its one unusual feature is a bottomless pit with a reputation as being a portal to hell. During the construction of Houska, men who were sentenced to death were given the opportunity of having their sentence expunged if they volunteered to go down on a rope into the pit. One man volunteered, and partway down he started screaming incoherently. When they pulled him up, he looked like he had aged 30 years, with wrinkles and white hair. He never did recover his sanity, but was sent to a mental asylum where he died 2 days later from unknown causes. Tales about strange creatures emerging from the castle persist even to today, even though they actually built a chapel over the pit. It makes you wonder about the Bohemian concept of faith when they have a chapel over a pit to hell, and they also have a church made out of bones. This is Kutna Hora, also in the Czech Republic.
The next thing that we're going to look at is a special little island recently vacated by its previous owner who committed suicide.
Little St. James was a privately owned island which was revealed to contain some very strange constructions. A gold-domed temple built on the island proved to be only the surface level of an underground network of torture chambers. Why did he feel the need to go underground? It's not as though anyone else even lived on the island. Perhaps it served another purpose entirely.
The next thing I want to look at is Gotthard Tunnel.
The Gotthard Base Tunnel is the longest and deepest railway tunnel in the world, and it runs through the Swiss Alps. Because of this, it's usually strongly associated with the base at CERN, but that's not necessarily the case. There are some strange things about Switzerland in general, including their relationship to the Vatican and their supposed neutrality during World War II, not to mention their banking system, which is known for its secrecy. But setting that aside, let's just look at the tunnel itself for now. The name Gotthard has two potential meanings. The first in the Germanic language is God hardened, or in other words, strengthened by God, but which God? And the other meaning is an Old English term for goat herd. Speaking of goats, the opening ceremony of the tunnel featured a goat character dressed very nicely in a suit. This is ostensibly to represent the goats which live among the Alps, but parallels can also be drawn to Baphomet. One of the things that people hardly noticed were the dancing haystacks in the background, but they actually speak about voodoo. In Africa, voodoo priests dress up as haystacks in order to invoke various spirits. These priests are known as Zangbeto, and they dance in a very similar manner to what was performed at the Gotthard Tunnel. I'll let you draw your own conclusions about that one.
In a previous video, I talked about a series known as Hellier, And this is quite interesting to watch, but you can also just research some of this information yourself. It talks about a Kentucky cave system.
Mammoth Cave in Kentucky is a popular tourist spot, and like a lot of these locations, also has a bottomless pit. As I mentioned before, the series Hellier talked about a phenomenon known as the Kentucky cave goblins, which does seem to be endemic to this area. Now, does it have anything to do with the bottomless pit? Well, let's have a look at a report from 1955. Less than 2 hours' drive from Mammoth Cave is Hopkinsville, and also a town called Kelly. A family who lived on a town near the settlement of Kelly ended up going to the Hopkinsville police station after being terrorized by strange creatures. The eyewitness accounts were investigated by Project Blue Book, which was a task force specially assembled just to research strange phenomenon. The eyewitness accounts say that on Sunday, August 21st, 1955, their farm had multiple visits from small metallic creatures which could not be shot. One theory being explored at the time was that the creatures came out of the nearby cave systems, and that's certainly something that people still think to this day. But America has yet another strange bottomless pit.
Ellensburg and its surrounding valleys and Menashtash Ridge are beautiful in any season, but some believe what lies beneath is a deep, dark hole with supernatural powers. One of the only people alive ever known to have seen this mysterious hole took me as far as he could or would.
Honey, don't go up that damn driveway.
I want to see if there's tracks up here. I'm just curious.
You're out of your tree going up there.
Red Elk, a Native American shaman or medicine man, tells me his dad first showed him the hole in 1961.
He said, this is an endless hole.
He says he's been back many times and that strange things happen every time he goes near it.
And people get it confused with what I call the devil's hole.
Many locals claim to know about the hole, but it didn't really become a phenomenon until 1997, when Mel Waters went on the Coast to Coast radio show with Art Bell.
As usual, I brought the dogs with me. They wouldn't go anywhere near the damn thing.
Waters said the hole had a 3-foot stone wall around it. It seemed bottomless to him, so he used an old shark fisherman's trick, sending thousands of feet of fishing line down. Said he believed it descended miles into the earth, and he says he's heard strange stories about its powers.
The one guy claims that he threw his departed canine down into the hole. He swears the dog actually came back to him.
When Mel went public, that's when the trouble began.
But why?
Now I'm going public on this.
Red Elk claims the government has a secret base there.
It's an underground base, a very small underground base.
Bottomless pits and cave systems. What is it about these places that has so much interest for the military? This is definitely a question worth posing.
And now we're going to get into the really big stuff, starting with the Great Pyramid.
The Giza Plateau in Egypt is entirely flat, except for a series of artificial mountains known as the pyramids. The most notable one is the Great Pyramid. The Great Pyramid is supposed to be a burial place of the pharaohs, but no body has ever been found inside the pyramid, even though it does have what appears to be a burial chamber. For such a monumental structure, it has very few vestiges within it. This would suggest that its purpose also had to do with its size and shape and location. The pyramid is both an artificial mountain and an artificial cave system. The Bible actually supports the notion that human beings can build artificial high places which reach to the gods in the heavens, such as the Tower of Babel. This is the European Union Parliament in Strasbourg for no particular reason. I can understand building an artificial mountain, but why does the mountain need a subterranean cave system as well? What was this space used for?
So we've established that underground systems seem to have some kind of interdimensional gateway to an underworld. The biggest question is whether or not these particular gateways are being used. As we saw with Houska Castle, the Nazis definitely wanted to utilize that one. And as we saw with the Great Pyramid, it's kind of possible to create your own fake one, something which is a high place and an underground place at the same time. Now, the Great Pyramid was more than likely a place where they performed different rituals, and based on some of the rituals that I've looked at through ancient Egypt and Hermeticism, I believe that the Great Pyramid was probably a resurrection chamber, although I don't think it was very successful. There's only one account recorded in history, and it is legitimately recorded in history, whether people like to admit it or not, where someone came back from the dead, and that was Jesus Christ. Contemporary Roman writers at the time, like Tacitus, fully acknowledged that Jesus was a real person, that he was crucified, and that his believers and followers professed that he had risen from the dead shortly after his death. The Romans were also never able to reproduce a body. So even though a lot of people don't particularly subscribe to the belief system, they can't really argue with the historical facts. One of the other things that we should note is that the Antichrist and Satan's version of being the Messiah is going to be an instance where someone is raised from the dead. Conquering death has been the aim of a lot of occult practitioners throughout the years. It was the main aim of alchemy and Hermeticism. So are there practitioners today that have a resurrection chamber that they are trying to use? And the answer is yes. Both Washington, D.C. and the Vatican have the same layout, and it's very similar to Egypt.
An obelisk was an ancient Egyptian symbol thought to represent the missing phallus of Osiris. The Washington Monument is not an original Egyptian obelisk, but it is the largest one in the world. After the Roman Empire conquered Egypt in 30 BC, they began the process of pilfering the place for all of their obelisks, collecting a total of 8 for the city of Rome. One of them is here at the Vatican in the middle of St. Peter's Square. Now you might think, okay, why does that matter? Well, it could have something to do with an ancient ritual. In the documentary Belly of the Beast by Fourth Watch Films, they outline an ancient ritual designed to resurrect someone from the dead. If a ritual space can be constructed which aligns the phallus of Osiris with the dome womb of Isis, then the two can create a new god. However, you also need a subterranean resurrection chamber in the form of an empty tomb, similar to what they found when Jesus rose from the dead. And conveniently enough, underneath the Capitol dome is the subterranean empty tomb of Washington, and directly underneath St. Peter's Basilica dome is an ancient necropolis from Rome. So the stage is set for more than one superpower to use an occult ritual in order to raise someone from the dead. The question is, who's going to do it first? In the Bible, the bottomless pit isn't just an interdimensional realm, it's also the realm of the dead. Though they dig into Sheol, from there my hand shall take them. Though they climb up to heaven, from there I will bring them down. Yet you shall be brought down to Sheol, to the lowest depths of the pit. So they and all those with them went down alive into the pit. The earth closed over them, and they perished from among the assembly.
So not only do they have subterranean realms of the dead and high places above it in the form of domes, but both of them also have Egyptian obelisks. As the Fall brothers noted in their movie, their documentary, which I will link in the description box below, this layout is a ritual space on a massive scale. So what are your thoughts? I'm interested to hear if anyone else knows of anything similar to this, or if this lines up with stuff that you have previously researched yourself. The sun is getting low, so I better head back to my car and make sure that I get out of this place before nightfall. Alright guys, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe, and don't forget to share this out to other weirdos like us. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.